to use data and intelligence, they don't go around begging people and appealing to their conscience. Because in country where you even have infrastructure and social services, it is not easy to pay tax. That's the reality. So what I'm thinking is, as we are doing the NIN project, how can we use that to solve a very important national problem around revenue generation? Number one, we need to connect the dots. So everybody is rushing out to do NIN because they know very soon they can no longer make phone calls, they will not be able to open account. So what we need to do is, once we finish those registrations, anybody who is an adult, and we can get that data from the NIN, we should just automatically register them for taxes if they haven't been registered. So don't ask them to register, just register them. They have a civic obligation to do it. The Constitution mandates everyone to do it. They have been doing illegality before. Now we have their data. Register them and send them an SMS to say, this is your tax number. We expect you to meet your tax obligation going forward. That's number one. Number two is that we need to find a way to connect NIN to companies. So we need to go to CAC such that for you to be a director in any company with the CAC, you must indicate your NIN so that we can link it together. For you to register a business name as a promoter of a business, as a major shareholder, we need your NIN so that we can link it together with the business you're doing. Once we have done that, what you have done is you have the data of everyone that is doing anything meaningful in Nigeria that you need to have, right? The next thing you do is, how do you ensure that you capture their information? That's where the data and intelligence comes in. And I would explain my perspective. When people have income, whether that income is legitimate or not, they do three things. They spend, they save, and they invest. What you need to do is target people from those three angles. When people are spending, thank God, I shouldn't be saying thank God, but COVID-19 has essentially moved a lot of people onto the internet. So things that people were doing before and hiding, now they have to do it online. Online, you cannot erase it. It's there for the whole world to see. And Nigeria has signed exchange of information with so many countries, which means if you take the money abroad, we'll find you. Now, when you link up with how people spend their money, you'll be able to get information from that. Link up with how people save. That's where BVN comes in. Okay? That's where you also link up with how people invest. We need to start thinking about land registry. Can we link everybody who has a land in Nigeria to NIN so we can also link it to tax? Can we link everybody registering their vehicle, right, with vehicle registration authorities? Can we link the capital market? If you're a shareholder, you're buying government bond, you're buying shares in the company or treasury bills, can we also link with investment banks and asset and wealth managers? Now, when you link all of this together, what happens is you can just use somebody's NIN and you see all their wealth, at least, you see their spending, you see their investments, and you can reconcile it with the tax record. If it's not adding up, they have some explaining to do. My view is that this is something that I consider a quick win, and all the agencies working together, Ministry of Finance, Communications and Digital Economy, Trade and Investment, and of course with the lawmakers providing any legal framework where we may run into trouble, and the executive, as we see now, taking the leadership, as well as the FRS and the Joint Task Board, will be able to help us a lot, including when you're even doing custom clearance. Let's link that to your NIN and to tax. And I can, I'm very optimistic. I think we can raise our tax revenue by over 100% in the next 1 to 2 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, my brother, for your excellent submission. I most appreciated, Mr. Taiwo. Most importantly, you spoke on my area, that is particularly the issue of national identity number. I strongly agree with what you have said, 100%. I don't have any objection. And I will consider what you have said here for implementation. And most importantly, we need to collaborate with other institutions, as you outlined here, like Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Industry, Trade and Investment, and also Federal Inland Revenue Services. I'm so passionate about industry, trade and investment, and I'm so passionate about having a national central database in Nigeria. And this is one of the reasons why we are pushing for all our citizens to obtain national identity number. We live in a country where our estimate, even by the experts, in our population is always plus minus 10 million. Some will tell you we are 200 million, some will say 190, some will say 210 million. It is difficult for you to have a meaningful plan in a country where even the total number of citizens is not known, and you always rely on plus minus 10 million. And if you look at the law establishing National Identity Management Commission, under Section 5, it is clearly stated that national identity should be the central and national database of Nigeria, meaning that each and every institution that wants to obtain data should leverage on our national identity database. Today, even before we have started this SIM registration, the database has been captured. Let me say only approximately 20% of our citizens have been captured in the database. As you rightly said, if you look at Section 27 of the National Identity Management Commission Act, it says that citizens are not allowed to renew their passport without national identity number, not allowed to obtain voters card without national identity number, not allowed to benefit from pension without national identity number, not allowed to pay tax without national identity number. They are not allowed to partake in any transaction with government without their national identity number. They are not allowed in any way to purchase land or to sell any property in Nigeria without national identity number. Any form of transaction in government without national identity number for citizens is illegal. And Section 29 clearly stated that if someone commits any transaction or register for vote or passport or transaction with government without that national identity number, he has committed a crime with fine or imprisonment or both of them. But this has been neglected. So it is because of this now we are pushing to ensure that in our country we have national database that will capture our citizens 100%. And that should be the reference point of government in taking decision, planning, and many more. So thank you very much for your contribution. I think we have gone around the panel now. Is there any person who did not speak? I hope we have gone around the panel. So if there is none, then I will go back to Professor Muhammad Mainoma to ask for his input on the issue raised by Mr. Atedola, particularly on how to implement incentives that will be impactful to our citizens. Because even today we have so many incentives, but the major challenge is how impactful the incentives have been to our citizens. What do you think government should do to make sure that incentives are impactful to the citizens? And secondly, as an academic who happens to be a former vice chancellor and who happens to be a professor for many years, what is the best way for the staff of FIS to be trained and retrained on tax collection, tax monitoring, tax regulation, and many more? These are the two questions we have for you based on the issues raised by Mr. Atedola.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, sir. The starting point is that incentives must give results. And by results, I mean taking them literally with the spelling of results, let us give incentives on regulations and standardization. That whatever we are doing, if we want to do incentives, let it be that it is targeted at regulating the practice in a manner that it will be such that it will be seamless through standardization. Secondly, let it be towards employment generation. That is to say that whatever level of incentive you want to give, let it be that people are engaged more, so that there will be more revenue as a result of that incentive. It could also be in the area of social investment. That is the essence results. Social investment in the sense that there might be some weak people in the society that may not be able to do anything for now, but they have done some level of contribution before. They need to now feel the impact of the economy. So such incentive must be that will be tailored towards that social investment. The U is utility investment, that if we can give some level of power, some level of road networks that is going to improve what they do instead of direct monetary donation to such companies. So utility investment is the U in results. Then in law and order, is there anything we can do to enhance the peaceful coexistence of that people that want to give incentive to? The level, the environment that they operate, can we make it more conducive for them to operate? Let the incentive be targeted in providing the law and order within their operational ambit. Then the one you will also want to hear, it is the T, which is let it be technology investment. Instead of giving them more, let's give them tools, technological tools that will aid them to do these things better than what they do, so that we can easily generate income from their activities. And lastly, it is the issue of security investment, the one that is going to give them some level of comfort that is going to protect them, that is going to give them a reward in the future. And that is my take on the first question, that any incentive must give results. And I have defined the results as I have mentioned. Then on the issue of level of capacity building for FIRS staff and what they should do, I think they should move towards getting the academy functioning. Some years ago, when I was with the University of Abuja, we have discussed with FIRS that there is the need to have a functional tax academy that is going to look at issues of tax administration, issues of tax policies, issues of fiscal management generally. That it is important that they have a functional institution that can even award certificates, that can generate ideas, that can do researches in the areas of revenue generation and revenue management. That is important that until they have an established institution that can be focused on the kind of things they do, that will study the kind of things they do that as it is available in other climes. They will not get the kind of training they require. They will not get the kind of exposure that is desired of a system like this that is saddled with this enormous responsibility.
Thank you very much, Professor Noma. However, I have skipped our erudite professor, Professor Teju Somorin, the first female professor of taxation in Nigeria and the immediate past president of the Chartered Institute taxation of Nigeria, CITN. I apologize for skipping because I couldn't see the panel clearly from here. And I do hope that you will not report me to my wife so that she will not deal with me on your behalf. So it is your turn to speak.
Honorable Minister, thank you very much for recognizing me. Actually, I had spoken before you came on the scene. I had spoken on quite a number of issues, but I can make additional comments at this point in time based on what has been said by the other two panelists. First of all, I'd like to say that Nigeria, or the FRS, through the Ministry of Finance, there should be concentration on focus on collection of indirect tax. And the main indirect tax that we collect in Nigeria is value-added tax. Value-added tax is a money spinner for any country. I had not seen any country that has started collecting VAT and had abandoned it. Instead of being abandoned, they keep on increasing the rates. There was a study I did for the Nigerian Economic Summit Group in 2018 on the issue of VAT and related matters. I discovered that countries, they keep on increasing their rates, but there's no country that has abandoned it. Now let's come to the case of Nigeria. Nigeria introduced VAT in 1994. At the time it was introduced, the rate was 5%, for a number of years. The IMF and the World Bank told Nigeria that you cannot collect more than 6 billion from VAT. That was the projection given to FRS that year. But at the end of the day, Nigeria collected 8.2 billion from VAT. I'm just saying this for you to know that we need to focus more on value-added tax because it is an area that Nigerian can get a lot of revenue. By 2005, Nigeria collected 21 billion from VAT. By 2018, VAT moved to 1 trillion mark by 2018. So there should be more focus, whatever we can do on VAT, to make sure that it continues to be a money spinner for Nigeria. Having said that on value-added tax, I want to move to another topic, which is in national tax policy, the revised national tax policy. The first one was in 2012, and it was revised in 2016-2017. They submitted their report. There are some areas, for some of the changes that the national tax policy recommended the committee, there are some areas that are yet to be implemented. I think we should look at some of those areas that still yearning for implementation and make sure they are implemented. One, the committee recommended that Nigeria should put in place Office of Tax Simplification. They have it in UK, and it's really working well in UK. The purpose of the OTS, Office of Tax Simplification, is to modify or simplify tax laws because legislation is very important in collecting tax. In fact, tax legislation or tax laws is one of the three components of the tax system. The first being tax policy. From tax policy, you move to tax laws. From tax laws, you move to tax administration. Knowledge of tax laws is very important. Taxpayers, they need to understand the tax laws. Tax administrators, they need to understand the tax laws. If the tax administrators do not understand the tax law, they will find it to be able to apply it. If taxpayers do not understand it, it will be another problem for them. So Office of Tax Simplification, I think it's supposed, based on the plan proposed by the committee, is supposed to be established by the Office of the Ministry of Finance. So I think we need to settle that one quickly. Then dedicated website also ought to be created. I'm not sure whether that has been done for the tax policy. So we need to create a dedicated website for tax policy. Then there was another one that I think is also important about anybody that wants to come on board to be a governor or to hold any position in Nigeria. They should, first of all, tell the taxpayers, where are you going to get the tax revenue? for wanting to accomplish this position and say that when I become governor, when I become this, we are going to hospitals, they'll be free, schools will be free. So you have to tell them your plan. How do you intend to generate that revenue? Because without revenue, you cannot spend. Those two, they go together. So that one also, we still need to work on that. It has not yet been done. Then the other area, which I've mentioned earlier, is that we need to put a plan in place for tax reforms. When exactly does Nigeria want to be having tax reforms? 5 years, 6 years. Then I want to contribute to what has been said by both the other two panelists, Professor Mainuma and then Ibeg and Adetola, about tax incentives. I quite agree with their submissions. But we need to ask ourselves, in what areas do we actually need tax incentives? We have to know which areas that we need it. And such incentives, when they come on board, I think it has to be limited. Let them have time. Maybe these incentives that we are, releasing, it may be for a period of 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. So after that, we stop it. But we should not leave tax incentives open-ended like that. Some of our tax incentives, they've been in the statute as far back as in the 80s, and they're still there. Like the period we are now, this pandemic area that we are, this is an area, the period that we actually need tax incentives. So that too should be, have some timing. We all hope that by the end of this year, this pandemic will be over. So all those incentives, let them be time-bound, that after so years, they go back to where they were before. So there's no need for them to continue like that. That is on tax incentives. Then the other areas that we need to do about tax administration, we need to do them. And when the revenue is released into the federation account, the money should be spent well, which one speaker has mentioned before. The money should be spent well so that the payers, they will know that what has been collected, they are seeing the benefits of what they have paid. So my final remarks today is that the taxpayer should be treated as king. I picked it from the reports of Professor Dr. Phillips, who was the chairman of the 2003 study group for Nigeria. Their final remarks there was that taxpayer should be treated as king. When you treat the taxpayer well, the taxpayer will pay your taxes. Thank you very much, the Honorable Minister.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Teju Somorin, for an excellent submission. However, before you sit down properly, I have a question to you based on the issues raised by Professor Muhammad Mainuma, particularly on the issue of certainties when it comes to collecting tax. How can government improve certainties with regards to tax collection?
On the issue of certainty in tax, yes. I'm sure, Professor, that issue of certainty in tax, I can trace it. Let me first of all trace the origin, that there should be certainty in tax. And I will give this credit to Adam Smith, an economist and a philosopher. In 1776, in his book, The Wealth of Nations, actually 2 volumes, he propounded a theory, and there were 4 canons of taxation. He propounded the canon of economy, canon of certainty, canon of equality, and canon of convenience. Those were the 4 canons. So what Professor Mainuma referred to, the certainty, is actually a canon or principle of certainty propounded by Adam Smith in 1776. Later on, by the time the National Tax Policy Committee was set up, it was also replicated in the documents called National Tax Policy. First of all, in the document of 2012 under Professor Dr. Phillips, then the second one was under Professor Abiola Son. So the issue of certainty is 2 ways, both for the tax administrators and also for the taxpayer. From the end of the tax administrator, let's say FRS, for example, because there are 3 levels of tax administrators in Nigeria: the level of the federal, the level of the states, and also the level of the local government. But we are using FRS for this purpose. FRS should be certain. They should be able to know that, okay, by this year, by the end of this year, they should make projection with Ministry of Finance. They should be certain, because Ministry of Finance can call anytime. How much do you think you are able to generate, because government wants to plan. They are going to budget. It's from what FRS collects and other federally collected revenues, as stated in Section 162 of the Constitution, that they will know how much they will plan around. So FRS has to be certain that the amount of revenue they are going to be receiving from different type of taxes they are collecting, whether it is the oil tax, which is the petroleum profit tax, or whether it is from the non-oil taxes, the company's income tax, the personal income tax. FRS collects limited, personal income taxes. So whether it's from that one, whether it's from their baby, the value-added tax, whether it's from the stamp duties, which is likely to generate more revenue for us based on the intervention and the strategies being deployed now under the current chairman, Mr. Nami. You are doing a very good work in that area for stamp duties. So they have to be certain that this is how much they are likely to expect from different types of taxes. That is for the side of the government. Now, on the side of the taxpayers also, they should be certain in their mind how much they are supposed to pay. And thank God that we now have a system called self-assessment. Before, there was no self-assessment. It was introduced in 1991. So under the self-assessment, a taxpayer is certain how much he's going to collect, because with the self-assessment system, the responsibility to declare how much you are going to pay has been pushed to the taxpayer. Before, it used to be government assessment. Then later on, the two of them were running, at the same time. But now it is devoted to self-assessment. So the taxpayer, when you are filling your form, you should be certain in your mind how much tax you are supposed to pay. So that is the additional point I want to make in respect of being certain in tax collection. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, Professor. It's just to remind you that we are not in classroom, Professor. When you allow professors to talk, then you must learn how to politely ask them to stop. So thank you very much. I really appreciate your statement where you emphasize that taxpayers should be treated as kings. I really enjoy that statement. As a layman in the area, I always agitate for that we must respect the taxpayers and we must treat them, and we must create awareness about tax collection and what government does with the money being collected. I think this is one of the most important points I enjoy from your presentation. Because of time constraint now, we will go to the audience and other participants. If there is any question that they are willing to ask, they can identify themselves and go ahead with the question, please. The question, one should introduce himself and mention the panel member that he wants him to respond to the question. We can use the opportunity to take 3 to 4 questions briefly.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Any questions or comments? Please just your hands up so that the microphone can be brought to you. Anyone? Okay, at the end there. Please, right at the end. Hello? At the end there. Right at the end.
Good afternoon, Chairman, panel of discussants, and ladies and gentlemen. I am Deputy Corps Commander, Amorodion Martins of FROSC. The area I want to kind of comment on is on the issue of using data and intelligence. I want to advise that if we are to launch into that stage, that the JTB, they need to move a step further. Though they come to meeting, they agree this is what they are going to do, but most often you discover when it comes to implementation, some states, they do lower the bar. they lower the bar, they will not follow it. Thereby, you see a taxpayer now look for alternative where he wants to get what he needs from the government. So we need to key into that. Since we want to be using him in respect of to capture people into the database. Then my second issue is we are talking of the qualities of a tax officer now. According to the professor, he said they need economic experience, taxation experience, accounting experience, and legal experience. I also want us to look at the basic education in our tertiary institution, the polytechnic and the universities, where these things are treated. You discovered the current course outline. Somebody may say, after all, in the process, for instance, you want to do accounting, you do economics in one level, another one, maybe some people will say they do computer. But you discover the course content of those courses is not enough to drive the person who actually want to administer on taxation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So thank you very much. Next, please.
Thank you very much. My name is Adewale Ogunyomade. I'm a member of the board of FRS. This is a public discourse because there are things that we can discuss at the level of the board. But I just wanted to lend my own contributions, particularly to the earlier discussions, because we didn't have an opportunity to talk at that time. I was thinking about what we could do, and I was looking at from the perspective of how it is important that we enhance voluntary compliance for the reasons that this would draw more people into the tax net. It will reduce cost of collection and also improve on tax administration, where we can have people come and comply voluntarily. But how do we do this? How do we do this? How do we enhance voluntary compliance? We need to look at the ease of doing business. I know the chairman has been doing a lot of work in this aspect, but there's a need to continue to work on this to make it easy for people to deal with the tax authorities. Need to have simple, understandable tax laws that people can work with. We mentioned about digitalization. I think we are just in that era that to move forward any significantly, we have to do something about this. I think mention was made earlier on today about openness and transparency. And this has to be on the side of the taxman, the tax authorities, and also the larger government to the people. People have to believe that the money that has been collected are being used, and that the taxmen are not just harassing them unnecessarily. But importantly, and I think we need to mention this as well, is the need to use the big stick. It should be such that the fear of the taxman is the beginning of wisdom. If you don't begin to have that fear that if I am caught not paying my taxes, the consequences will outweigh the benefits I may get, people will not come forward. So there's a need for us, having done every other thing, to ensure that when we take a case, we take it to the logical end and make samples for other people, so that in some other climate, people fear taxmen. They fear them, and out of that fear, people make inquiries about how do I pay my taxes, not we chasing after them to come and pay their taxes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Adewale, board member of FRIS. Apologies for not recognizing board members at the initial stage of the dialogue. I was not aware that the board was represented. Thank you very much. Because of time constraint, I think we will not take more questions and contributions. I will only use the opportunity to allow the panel members to have 30 seconds for what I call the last word, starting with the lead presenter, Mr. Logan Ward from the South Africa. He will be given 30 seconds to say his last word, and I will go through the remaining members to say their last words.
Okay. Thank you so much, Minister. In the bigger scheme of things, the effective policy and collection is successful if we concentrate on the high value items. We should not spend a lot of time on trying to collect from informal, low salary, and spend a lot of energies there. We must look at where the money is in the economy and structure our tax system to effectively collect that. The rest can be done through third-party information, data gathering, as you say, and therefore automation. If we concentrate on the big contributors, not punishing, but collecting efficiently, we probably will introduce a better form of voluntary compliance and a better form of fairness, and probably will improve our collection without adjusting our tax rates. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I strongly agree with you, and I have been saying this: we need to orient and reorient our citizens on why paying tax is important, and we also need to win their hearts by justifying clearly what government has been doing with the tax being collected. When citizens are convinced that the money is going to be used judiciously, I believe the issue of voluntary tax compliance will increase significantly. That confidence must be established. Thank you very much. We move to the next one, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele. You have 30 seconds for your last word.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. I think my 30 seconds, I'll make two quick points. The first one is, in the National Tax Policy of 2017, the recommendation there is to have a National Tax Day. So I have to appreciate the FRS chairman, Mr. Mohammed Nami, for even starting this conversation. But I hope that this can grow bigger to become a National Tax Day, where we'll celebrate paying taxes and the possibilities that come from it. My second point is for government to lead by example. So we've spoken a lot on how to generate revenue, the need for us to justify to taxpayers and build their trust. But these things will be impossible if government is not leading by example. And that would include political leaders, that would include MDAs. So let's lead by example in paying the right amount of tax and in being transparent in communicating how those monies are being spent, and being very efficient with those spending so that we can get the best value for every naira spent. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Mr. Taiwo. We move to Professor Teju Somori. Professor, you have 30 seconds for the last word.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Minister. I'll try to be brief. My last word on this is that government should not stifle FRS with funds. They should provide them with sufficient funds. If government wants more revenue, government should be able and be prepared to release more funds to FRS. FRS should not be treated like any other agency, because it was when funding was improved for FRS by way of cost of collection that we were able to see, significant improvement in the revenue collected. So my last word, I'm repeating again, government should not stifle FRS with funds. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much. So by implication, you are encouraging government to increase the percentage given to FRS. This is what I understand. So I support you because I always encourage regulatory agencies to be taken care of very well. It's very important. And I think tax collectors will also be part of that. Thank you very much. Then we move to Mrs. Adetola for her last words.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Well, my final thought is very simple, and what I would say is whether it's at the national level or the subnational level, like they say in the movies, follow the money, because it's quite easy when you follow, the trail of the money, when you mine available data that is available to you, whether you're getting it from the CBN or you're getting it from NFIU, whatever agency you're partnering with, and the lofty ideas we've had as well from the Honorable Minister this afternoon, which is also using, our identification system, to track our taxpayers. And I would then say in conclusion that taxes is a partnership by all, whether it's from the private sector, the MDAs, the state, and even the administrators. So we need to all work together to ensure that we build a Nigeria that we want and a Nigeria that we'll be proud of. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Adetola. And finally, we move to Professor Muhammad Mayanoma for his last word.
Thank you very much, sir. On behalf of the rest of us, I will thank you very much for this opportunity to participate in this dialogue. But let me say that my final thoughts is on 4 major issues, and they give me 9 minutes. Tax net, we need to broaden it in order to ensure that we have economic development. Also, the issue of automation is very, very significant and very important, and that is the A in NAMI. And the mixed optimization of tax types is also the M in NAMI, and it is very significant that we do a lot of optimization of the tax mix. And then the incentive management is also critical in addressing issues that will enhance performance of Nigerian economy. Thank you for this opportunity.
So, thank you very much, Professor, particularly on the issue of automation, which happened to be the second one. So the priority has increased from succeed the last one, digitalization. So now we are second. I think we have been integrated to the second position instead of the last two positions. So thank you very much. I use the opportunity to thank all the panel members for their contribution, and also to FRIS for organizing this first national tax dialogue. Most importantly, the chairman for organizing the event. And I also use the opportunity to commend the two ministers, Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Hajia Zainab Shamsun Ahmad, and my brother, Prince Clem Akbar, the State Minister of Budget and National Planning, for effective supervision and coordination of our vision. So we appreciate the invitation and to be part of this very important event. And we apologize for adding 8 more minutes without permission. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. But before you leave, sir, we'll take some very brief remarks from the Honorable Minister of Finance. Minister of Finance State. Please, sir. Mr. Clement. Is he on?
Can you? Hello, can you hear me?